Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison and I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today we have a discussion which is on my January 2024 TBR. We're starting in January with The Big Boy, Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time, which is, hello Gus. Well, it is usually thought of as one of the titans of the fantasy genre. Many people say it is one of the most important modern fantasy series. It's a huge inspiration for my favourite fantasy series, The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Carhill. And obviously Brandon Sanderson is a huge fan of this series as he finished it and he ended up writing the last 3 books. So I've been thinking about starting the Wheel of Time for a really long time. I have read the first chapter multiple times and kind of thought, oh, this isn't really what I'm in the mood for now. But this year is different because I am a much more advanced reader. I've read a lot of difficult, long books, like Curse of the Mistwraith, for example. And I've also got a buddy to keep me going and to help me enjoy this more in Matt from Bask in the Story. So Matt and I have already messaged back and forth a couple of times about the book, and we only started it yesterday. And I'm actually filming this the day it releases, so this is very up to date. I had filmed this last week and then had multiple changes to the TBR to the point where I decided it was sensible to refilm. I'm really excited about reading The Wheel of Time. I'm currently only 3 chapters in, and that is purely because on New Year's Day I was a bit hungover from New Year's Eve, so I didn't really have the focus and the concentration to read something like this. So I only read a couple of chapters and then just ended up hanging out with my wife instead. And also I did have to finish reading Red Rising, which I did in kind of the early evening yesterday. Now, I've been planning on reading Eye of the World for a long time. What I wanted to do was to wait until, like I said, I had the experience as a reader, because people have said that there's a lot of characters, a lot of plot line to keep track of, and it's a very long and thick book. It's 700 pages, just this first one, and this is one of the shorter ones. But for me, I was like, I'll just wait until I know that I can. I've got the experience to enjoy it. And also, one of the other big things is I wanted to wait until the channel had grown a bit, so that people would that we had enough people in the community on the channel who would be able to enjoy me reading this as well. You often see a lot of fantasy channels will start by reading something big like Malazan or Wheel of Time, and then they'll complain about how the videos they made are terrible because they're old videos. So I wanted that experience making videos as well before I started the Wheel of Time. Now, this is the first book I'm reading this month. I have this massive collector's edition hardback, which my wife got me for Christmas. Another reason I waited to January. So she got me this collector's edition hardback, which is really nice to read out of. However, I've also got the audiobook and I also have the Kindle book. So I'm prepared. I'm going in with all the weapons that I need to finish the Wheel of Time, or at least the Eye of the World. There'll be a non-spoiler review on my channel when I've finished it, and then Matt and I are going to be doing video podcast style, full spoiler discussions. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen anything like Tutor Ramble. Their reviews, it'll probably be similar to that, although not as structured, I expect. Moving on. So I say at the beginning of my videos now, since I introduced this new intro, that I read fantasy and science fiction books. But last year, my science fiction would have probably only been 1 or 2 books if I hadn't read all of Sanderson's Skyward series. So this year, one of the big things that I want to do is to make sure that I'm broadening my horizons and living up to the title, living up to the intro, and I'm reading more science fiction. So I've just finished reading Red Rising. After I finish Eye of the World, the next thing I'm going to go into is going to be a science fiction book. But I've got a couple of choices. So, for Christmas, I also received Return of the Griffin by JCM Byrne, which is the second book in the Hybrid Helix. It's a lovely, floppy American tall paperback. Absolutely love these things. I've got another one to show off in a minute. I'm genuinely really excited to get to this one. This month of reading could be one of the best months of reading I have or have had on the channel. Maybe not in terms of volume because of, this boy, but in terms of actual enjoyment. So I have this, which is the sequel to one of my top 10 books of last year. It's a superhero sci-fi. So Rohan, the main character, has kind of Superman style level powers, and he lives out on a sentient space station at the edge of the universe. And the first book was kind of about a few kind of smaller stories interacting with each other and coming together to kind of show this threat from the kind of empire that rules the universe to the independent space station that Rohan and all of his friends and thousands of people live on. And I'm genuinely so excited to see where this goes. I won't go too much into it because, talking about the plot might be a spoiler for book one. So, next book. The next book, let's show you. I'm pretty certain that this is going to be book 3 for the month, and that is Prophet of Adan. So, by Philip Chase, the sequel to Way of Adan that I read as one of the very first books I read on the channel. Philip has been multiple things. So he was a big inspiration for the channel because I really liked his booktube content. But on top of that, Philip is also a really big supporter of new booktube channels like mine. So he'll often, like and share my social media posts. He'll comment on my videos, even ones that he isn't in or tagged in, which is really nice. This edition that I bought this from Amazon, and it's come as actually a bit of a miss. That said, like some of the pages, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. No, it won't really focus. Some of the pages, you can see it there. So some of the pages haven't been cut right. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to try and cut the pages because there's no issue with the printing. I haven't decided whether I'm going to try and cut the pages myself and fix it or return it to Amazon. But I will definitely be reading it. And this has been pushed out of, I think, 3 TBRs now by just books taking me longer than I expected, which is why I'm not going to leave this until the end of the month. So this one is going to be book 3, definitely. So what I'm going to try and do this month, as I was talking about reading some sci-fi, I'm going to be trying to swap. So read fantasy, sci-fi, fantasy, sci-fi, fantasy, sci-fi. And I've got planned 3 fantasy and 3 science fiction books for this month. I do have one overflow book, which is if I'm able to finish everything, I will read the second Red Rising book, which is, I have a copy here actually, which is Golden Sun. So if I do finish everything, which is so unlikely, but if I do, I'll read Golden Sun. Or I could start on next month's reads, to be fair. So, so I've got Prophet of Adan, genuinely really excited for this one. The Way of Adan was kind of this mishmash of this kind of classic fantasy story told in a modern way, and it was basically, it felt like for me the perfect intro to this sort of classic fantasy, and Way of Adan was one of the big reasons that gave me the confidence to read something like Eye of the World in this more kind of classic style. But I've never managed to get around to reading the sequel to Way of Adan. And this month is the month it's happening. And have I said that before? Probably. But next up, we have a first book in a new series, and that is, I could only get a digital copy of this one because, as you know, it's out of stock everywhere if you've been following Christopher Rocchio online. This is Empire of Silence, the first book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Now, This is the UK cover, which I think is really cool. I think I'm just trying to line it up, looking at the screen here. The UK cover is really cool compared to the American cover, which looks like the cover to one of the Skyward books, which were YA, which I thought was quite interesting. But I'm incredibly excited for this one as well. Everybody who I know who has read this has raved about it, from booktubers to friends to, I don't know, the fact that it's sold out. I mean, a book that came out years ago is just sold out. That's mad. It's as much as I understand, because I have basically tried to ignore everything about this book. This is similar to the Kingkiller Chronicle, a kind of heroic or tragic figure recounting their life. So I'm very excited for Sun Eater. Currently, if I enjoy Sun Eater, this first book, Emperor Silence of the Sun Eater, my plan is to read the entire series this year so I can read the finale with everybody when it comes out. And the finale should be out at the end of the year, apparently. Book 6 is out in March, I think. I'm not going to have caught up by then, but I will definitely be caught up by the end of the year. I'm planning to read one novel or novella per month from the Sun Eater. The plan is also to do the same with Wheel of Time for now, but because I'm buddy reading that with Matt, a lot of that will be based on his schedule as well. So if he's like, oh, I don't fancy another Wheel of Time book in February, then I will hold off until the month we decide to read it together. I've got absolutely no schedule or time limit or anything like that on my reading of Wheel of Time. But everything else you'll see me read, I'm either planning to read the whole series or I'll be trying the series out for the first time. So speaking of sequels, I also have from my lovely local library Tyranny of Faith, which is the second book in the Empire of the Wolf and the sequel to Justice of Kings, which came out from behind and as a book that I thought I was going to like, but I ended up absolutely loving, and it ended up being my number 2 book of 2023, and I have to say it almost came close to being number 1. So Justice of Kings, I absolutely loved it. It kind of had everything that I was looking for. It felt so fresh, felt so interesting, and I loved Richard Swan's writing style. So I'm really excited to read Tyranny of Faith, which apparently is kind of where the world gets a bit bigger. So one of the things I did love about Justice of Kings was the small scale of the story, but I'm still excited for Tyranny of Faith. And I also, when I was watching a few people's Book of the Year videos over the last few weeks, quite a few people had Tyranny of Faith in those lists. So I'm really excited to read this one too. This will probably be one of the later books in the month. If not, maybe the last one, actually, looking at this list. There's one other book that I might be reading, which is, whatever the book is, it's a mystery book, although people have found some clues and think they know what it is. But it's a mystery book from the Page and Wick subscription service. So I have signed up for this. It's a bi-monthly fantasy subscription box, which comes with super special editions. So it's kind of similar. It's not like Broken Binding where there's like a lot of difference and a lot of stuff done. It's kind of like a step up from your normal hardback, if that makes sense. So, you know, they often have like new redesigned covers, new redesigned dust jackets, sprayed edges, and interior illustrations and stuff like that. But we're not looking at something like a Broken Binding. Anyway, it'll be much more easy for me to talk to you about that when it arrives. I don't actually know if it's going to be coming in January in time for me to read it, which again is why I've got Golden Sun as my backup book. But if it does arrive in January, I will endeavour to read it in January, unless I read a couple of chapters and just really don't get on with it and end up DNFing it. But I don't know. I feel like I enjoy most things I read, so I'd be surprised if that's the case. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. If you have read any of these books, then please let me know in the comments what you thought of them. Tell me if there's any I should prioritise, apart from Prophet of Adan, which, as I said, is definitely getting read this month. And then the other thing I forgot to mention, actually, is for Tyrant of Faith, I've got an arc of the 3rd book. So that will be probably one of the first books I read in February. So if you are also an excited Empire of the Wolf fan, then please watch the space for my 3rd book review early February. Anyway, so please do subscribe to the channel. It makes so much difference if you when you subscribe. I know it doesn't mean anything really, but seeing the number goes up makes me happy, like an endorphin sort of thing, and it's dumb, but I love it. So if you haven't subscribed and you think that you like my stuff, then I would definitely recommend you subscribe. I put out videos every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I review every book I read unless I don't finish it, which hasn't actually happened yet since I started the channel. Please, as I say, always leave a comment letting me know what you thought of the books that I've selected and any that you've read, any I should prioritise. And I will speak to you next time.